Welcome everyone to your District 1 South preview. I'm Lloyd Vance. I'm here with my tag team partner, Dave Maiers. We're very excited to join you this evening. You may have heard us in the past on an Oxford live stream at a couple of their matches. So we're going to do something different this evening. We're going to talk about the postseason. So it's that fun time of year where all the young men are finally going to get to prove it in the District 1 sectional tournaments, and we're going to focus mostly on the South tournament, and that's going to be at our host school, Oxford Area High School. So, how are you doing this evening, Dave?
Doing well, Lloyd. I appreciate you having me on. Really looking forward to the postseason and having good discussion tonight about the South section.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because you and I know because our kid wrestled in this part of the district. Uh, it's going to be very heavy tenants. We'll talk about we have some Oxford kids in there, and then of course you can't talk about this region without you know they've kind of changed things around this year, and that's where I'm going to kind of lean on you because you're my Delaware County guy, and they're bringing a lot of the guys from what the Central League into this section, and we'll talk about some of them. Just want to remind everybody couple changes this year in the postseason in District 1 in wrestling. There's going to be only three districts, and there's going to be a central, which will be at Perk Valley. You'll have the north, which is at Quakertown, and then the south here in Oxford. Uh, they all take place on Saturday, February 22nd. And the big thing, Dave, is, and I want to get your take on it, is there are going to be six wrestlers advancing from each weight class to the regional at Souderton, February 28th and 29th. So do you like that? Not like it? How do you like the new configuration?
Yeah, so it is definitely a little different, having six. Like you said, we're always used to having four. When they come together at the region, you have a 16-man bracket. The one thing that changes this year is that, they're taking 18 wrestlers. So next Friday night, each weight class is going to have two pigtail matches where the loser is done. They don't even go to the loser bracket and get two matches. So, that's definitely a change. So I think really for the kids going into these tournaments this weekend, I think the important piece is trying to finish in a spot where you're going to be in that main 16-man bracket. So a lot of times we talk about the blood round and getting down to the end. That's really not there this year. That fifth, sixth place match, both of those guys are going to advance. However, I think the important piece is like whether you're fifth or sixth and where that's going to put you in region. So it's definitely changed. Like you said, when you look at the South, it has added a little bit of Del Valle, a little bit of Central, and obviously, Chesmont. So, it's definitely going to be some good wrestling, and it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out when you take six guys from each section.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And going out of the regional, the Southeast regional at Solderton, they'll take five wrestlers. So, it's changed over the years. And a lot of times we hear, oh, well, that fifth place kid, he's going out there and he's going to wrestle some hammer from Bethlehem Catholic or one of these other powerhouse schools. But it's a great opportunity for the young men. And I know I'm very excited to talk about this tournament, the District 1 South. And when I look at this, as I said, I expect a lot of Kennett, a lot of Oxford, Downingtown West. They have some very strong kids. And we'll start at 107. Schaefer Hoffman from Downingtown West. He's a freshman. And this is a very, at this weight, you get a lot of freshmen. So Schaefer Hoffman, we've known him around Area 11. He's 31-4. He's going to be in the mix. And then at number two, you have a young man from Upper Darby, Singh. Uh, let's talk a little bit about this bracket and the matchups that we see here.
Yeah, so when I looked at this and you mentioned it, usually, when you get to the 107 bracket, you're seeing just a number of freshmen that are there. When I looked at this bracket, there's 16 in this bracket, and we're only looking at eight freshmen and eight upperclassmen. So you have sophomores and juniors, which changes things a little bit. But when you look at it, like you said, when you look at the top, Schaefer Hoffman is someone who, I mean, he's being ranked at the state level already. When you look at some of the other guys, it's kind of wide open after that. When when you look at the 2 seed Sing, a lot of times people talk, and there's been a lot of talk even when the brackets come out about scheduling, and who has an easy schedule, who doesn't have an easy schedule, and the point system that they use. They do a good job putting this all together. So, I think it gives guys an opportunity. Like I'm looking at this, and you know there's a kid in there that is the 15 seed who was injured. Gavin McQuaid from Garnet Valley, injured earlier in the year, 7-2. He's coming into a tournament as a 15 seed, and has a shot to perform well, just as some of these other guys have. So, I think it's wide open after Hoffman. I really do. You have some guys that have experience. Noah Smith has been around. He's a sophomore. Charlie Ball's a sophomore, so they have some experience in the postseason, which I think will help them as they go into this. But like I said, after the top, I really do think it's wide open in the 107 bracket.
Yeah, and it's going to be interesting because you have, Wuchner also in there from Kennett. He's pretty tough, and Hernandez from Oxford. I
Yeah.
mean, so they're scrappers. So
So,
this is a
yeah.
pretty solid bracket.
Yeah, and I'll have to say, another one, Jacob Carr from Sun Valley is a freshman. He does have a match. He's coming at 29-7. One of his losses actually was the Hoffman, and it was a 10-5 match. So Jacob Carr was in the match. 10-5's not a bad score. Jacob Carr is coming in as a 5 seed in this bracket. That's why I said I think it's kind of wide open. Somebody like Jacob Carr really could, we always talk about Sun Valley. They're going to have guys at each bracket. We talk about the teams, and he's someone that I think is someone to keep an eye on in this bracket as well. He's a really good freshman, has had a really good season.
Yeah, it's gonna be a fun bracket there, and 114. These lower weights, they're interesting, and you had Darren Minikazi from Sun Valley. He dropped down
Yeah.
from 121. He's 29-9. He's the first seed. We'll see how he does. You have Braden Laird from Ridley in there. Zach McFarland from Westchester East. He's a senior, 24-2. So some good matchups here. And then you're going to have guys that kind of, some spoilers in there as well. Like Kale Swain from Oxford. There's some tough kids in here.
Yeah, there is. And like I said, when I looked at this bracket, the first thing that I noticed, and you had already mentioned it, is, Minikazi coming down. He wrestled all year long at 121. So to see him drop down and take that 1 seed in this bracket was interesting. Like I said, McFarland's a senior, has some experience, looking at 24-2, has a really good record. I know a little bit about Braden Laird. He's a kid. He's a solid freshman. Had really good, junior high results. Qualified Keystones, placed the Keystones. So, he's going to come in and try to make some noise. And somebody like Christian Fossmeyer from, Downingtown East. He's coming in as a junior with 22 wins. He has experience in the postseason last year. Won a couple matches at the district meet. So, those top 4 seeds are decent top 4 seeds. Or like you said, any of these other guys coming out, you look at a Caleb Swain, you look at a Siegel, that obviously there's a line of Siegels that, they're probably beating each other up every night. So, Mason's going to be ready to wrestle in this tournament. So, like you said, you're looking at the top 4. Interesting. Minikazi comes down. Obviously, that's why he's at the 1 seed. But definitely there's going to be guys that, Caleb Ayala, another Garnet Valley Central League kid. A lot of these guys from the Chesmonts don't know much about the Central League guys coming in. So, we'll see, how they fare coming into this tournament.
It's going to be interesting. That's a good bracket, but as good as 114 and 107 are, I think 121 may be the toughest bracket in this tournament. I started studying this one, and obviously, we've watched a lot of Sam Howell, and he's in here, and but when you watch at number one, you have Andre Chisnick. Finally learned how to say his name right from
Yeah.
Coatesville. It seems like he's been here forever. This young man's been qualified for states a bunch of times, 27-8. Tough kid out of Coatesville. You have Noah Parsons from Avon Grove, who I was kind of surprised. Sam Howell actually beat him at Chestnuts. He's 28-6. He's a junior. You have another Siegel, Braden Siegel from Downtown West, 26-7. And then you have Sam Howell from the host Oxford School. He's 27-9, a junior, and he won the Chestnut. So, just talk a little about this bracket. I expect maybe some upsets, some bracket busters around this one.
Yeah, so when I looked at the bracket, one of the first things I know that you said, tough bracket. You have eight of the guys in this bracket have 20 or more wins on the season. So, you know, quality wins too along the way. Look at a guy from Springfield again, Central League, not knowing much. He comes in with a 23-8 record. So, I think, like you said, I think it's Andre obviously has a history. He's been to the state tournament and, we kind of know what to expect from him. But, any of these other guys, it's going to be some really good wrestling, and it's going to be interesting to see who the six coming out. Owen Burns, another one, Garnet Valley, Central League kid, has had a really good season. Like I follow Central League as well, and he's someone who might surprise some people. So it's going to be interesting with eight guys that have over 20 wins. Only six of those guys are going to be able to come out of this bracket. So I agree with you. I think 121 is definitely one of the brackets that's going to be interesting to watch come Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because you know it, with the way it's seeded, and you could see some matchups kind of early. That you could see a Hal versus Pisnick early. In the semifinals, and then the wrestlebacks, as you said, are going to be interesting. I know they're taking six, but you even have an Owen Burns there from Garnet Valley, 25-10. So 121, really looking forward to that one. 127, Dave is interesting. Yeah, Bryce Boyer, who made states last year as a sophomore. He's 28-12. Kind of a long wrestler for his size. And then you have another Siegel. He dropped down from 133. You have Case Siegel, the oldest of the Siegel brothers. He's a senior. He's 26-8. John Diorio, who I've watched a lot of years from Sun Valley. He's a tough kid, number 3. Senior, 31-12. And then you also have, kind of spoiler types. Logan McMillan is a kind of unheralded from Oxford. He's 22-12.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And that's the thing. You look at this bracket and you look at, like you said, you look at Boyer, he state qualifier, long wrestler, has had some really tight matches with Chase Eagle. So, if it comes down to those guys and it's going to be a really good match. You have Diorio again, Sun Valley always, as the season goes on, they get to postseason, they're always wrestling at their best. So, he's somebody else that you need to keep an eye on in this bracket. But like you said, I was going to mention Logan as well. Logan is that kind of kid that, he might catch you. You just don't know what you're going to get. He wrestles hard the entire match, and you just don't know. He may catch you at some point, and he's the type of kid that could come into this and spoil some things. So, like you said, the records, looking at records, you look at some other guys, you have the kid from Avongrove's coming in with 21 wins. So these are the types of guys that you have to watch going into these kind of brackets. But, I think the top of it, is pretty solid. And then, after that, you're going to kind of see who's there and who's wrestling well, come Saturday.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting one. And,
Yeah.
and, and McMillan did wrestle Boyer tough a couple weeks ago when I did that match, and
Yeah.
it was close. So I expect this bracket, this may be one of the ones, it's not going to be chalk. You're going to just kind of have to
Yeah.
throw these guys out there and see how it turns out. And then let us forget, Davey, it's a long day. These young men are going to start wrestling at 8:30. And first, I got to make the weight because we've seen that in the past where somebody may not make a weight or something. And then that bracket is all changed around. So, it's a lot of wrestling and the pressure's turned up. But a lot of these young guys have wrestled in big tournaments. I know Oxford was at Beast of the East and the Coal Cracker Classic. So was Kennett at a lot of these same events and some of the other teams. So going to be interesting. 133. Yeah, Brecken Strickland. I think he made states last year from Sun Valley. He's
Yeah.
34
Yeah.
and 7. He's a senior. Uh Chessmont champion. He's kind of the prohibitive favorite in this. Declan McDowell. He's a tough young man out of Downingtown East, 27-4. He's a junior. Alec Belter out of Westchester Henderson is very Chessmont heavy weight here at 133.
Yeah.
He's 28-6. And then, my bracket buster and a kid I've watched a lot over the years. Yeah, yes, I did coach him. I'm not going to, I won't mince it, but Dylan Hefner, I think, is a young man. I think could make some noise in this bracket.
Yeah.
He's a pin to win type of kid, kind of like a wild card, like you were talking about Logan McMillan. He's a sophomore, 23-12. Uh, he had a big win earlier this year over Siegel, who dropped. And Dylan has 21 pins in 23 of his wins, so he's a tough kid.
Yeah, he's definitely somebody that, could break a bracket. There's two names that I was looking at earlier today, and I want to bring up. I looked at Elijah Whitaker and Charlie Edmonds, two seniors that both wrestled last year. Like Elijah Whitaker, he was one that, won two matches at the district tournament last year, like surprised some people. I think he was, yeah, I don't have it in front of me. He was like 17 and not like his record last year compared to this year, a lot different. He's looking at 16 and 17 this year. But same with Charlie Edmonds. They both have experience in the postseason, which I think helps. Like you were saying, it's a long day. You have to be prepared for the matches. These are two kids that have been there. They're seniors. They know what it takes. And I think they're two kids that really could, you know, turn some things around in this bracket. Like you said, you're looking at Brecken Strickland, who's a state qualifier. After that, it's kind of wide open, right? It's kind of wide open. You have some kid, you have the kid from Unionville who's 15 and 10. So, Dario from Garnet Valley, another one, he has 16 wins. So it kind of opens up a little bit after Strickland. And, it's there for the taking for a number of these guys to get into that top six.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. And we're talking District 1 South, uh, sectional wrestling here. I'm Lloyd Vance. I'm with Dave Maiers. We are your Oxford Green commentators. We will be broadcasting the finals of the District 1 South tournament this upcoming Saturday, February 22nd. Hopefully everybody can join us. At 139, Dave, this is a prohibitive favorite. Blake Boyer, a young man we watched wrestle all the way from youth wrestling, and 35-4. He's a junior from Kennett. He already has, over 100 wins in his career, and just dominant at this weight at chest spots. No one really could touch him. So it's going to be interesting at 139 to see if somebody can give him a battle. Levi Richmond, a very good freestyle wrestler from Downtown West. He's 24-9. He's in this bracket. Cole Haynes, who's coming back. I believe last year he had pulled out of the tournament. He's 32-4. He's a senior as well. And I wanted to get your take on Malik Barker from Penwood. He's 26-6. And then I also throw in Jordan Scheibel is in the bracket from Oxford. He has 23 wins this season.
Yeah. So again, going back to what we had talked about earlier, you look at somebody like a Malik Barker coming out of Penwood. He's a senior, 26 wins, right? Not sure what the schedule was, but he's a senior, right? So he has experience. He's wrestled tough matches. Like I say all the time, no matter what, if you can wrestle, you're going to go out and put forth your best effort. So, we're looking at for Malik to do that this weekend. And again, a lot of kids may not know much about Malik. So Malik goes out there, he might perform well. I go back to the top and, you talk about Blake. I have some experience with Kennett as well, with my own boys. I know Blake is at the point, he wants to break through at the next level. He's been to the States twice, and then, each year he's getting a little bit tougher. And I know he wants to go for it, but, it all starts here. I look at one of his last matches, it was a 4-0 win over Cole Haynes, who, out of Unionville, like 32-4. So, these guys aren't just going to back down. Like you said, postseason wrestling's a little different. Guys go a little bit harder. Nolan Carroll, a really good senior out of Garnet Valley, also looking at 30 wins. So, you look at this bracket, you have three guys that have 30 wins, which is pretty impressive. So, you know, but like I said, like you said, and like I said, Blake is really kind of the cream of the crop. So we'll just kind of see if, who else is there to kind of go along with him, going into the regional tournament the following weekend.
And right now he's ranked very high in District 1 overall. And,
Yep.
in the South sectional, it's going to be interesting to see Kenny Holt serve, because as I said, there's always someone looking to be a spoiler out there. At 145, got to go back to Canada again. They have three hammers in a row. You and I did the match the other night. It was Oxford and Canada, and at 145, Kane Langle. Kane Langle's a tough kid. Another 100-win wrestler. another former state qualifier for Kennett, 34-6. He's a senior. But then there are some interesting names in this bracket as well. This is a
Yeah,
tough
there
one.
is.
Nathan O'Donnell, I'm going to get your take on him. Upper Darby, 28-3. Muhammad Sumar from Academy Park, 23-3. Number 4 seed, I've seen wrestle Colin Balasari from Ruston, 21-16. Now the interesting thing is Jared Scheibel from Oxford, 26-9. He's going for his 100th win. Uh, he beat Baldessari at the Chestnuts. Very good match. He caught him with the lateral drop. Just give your take on this bracket.
Yeah, so it's funny when we got the brackets today, when we were looking at them, this was one of those brackets, where we know a lot of kids, on the top half, right? So we know Jared Scheibel, and we know what kind of wrestler he is. We don't know much about Muhammad out of Academy Park and Nathan O'Donnell. Now Nathan O'Donnell, I know, again, he's a senior. Nathan has wrestled and has done well the past 3 years out of Upper Darby. So he's again he quality wrestler. He's down there at the 2 seed again. Looking at schedules and things like that. Is that where he belongs? I don't know. But like I said, the point system that they have, that's where he is. And you know what? He's gonna have to wrestle to that level in order to make it out there. But like you look at a guy like a Tyler Rush out of Springfield, also 26-8. He's a guy on that bottom half that could mix things up a little bit. That bottom half is pretty heavy with your Central League and your Del Val. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens down that end. Up top, I look at there's a really good freshman in Garner Valley and Scott Lamplew, who again, just like the Braden Laird from Ridley, quality junior high, placed at Keystones, PJWs, is a really good wrestler down there at Garner Valley in, at this weight class. So, interesting to see where he falls in all of this, come Saturday. But, like you said, Kane has really over the past couple of years is just at a different level. And, I've watched him, since he was a freshman, at Kennett, and he works extremely hard, and he's going to be tough to beat come Saturday. But the guys beneath there, it's going to be a nice battle. I'm looking forward to watching that.
They're going. This is another one. There's going to be a bracket buster in here, and
Sure,
Baldessari and Scheibel. you know, they're explosive guys. You know what I
sure,
mean? So
yeah,
they could catch somebody and pin them, and you'd be like, wow, I didn't see that coming. So I don't expect this one to be chalk. 145 is going to be a fun one to watch. But
yep,
as you said, Langle, he's looking pretty good going into the postseason. 152. This is another one. They have some names in here and wrestlers that we're familiar with. You have Hunter Delaney. He's from Sun Valley. Another kid seems like he's been wrestling forever. Palmer and his older brother. Killian. It's a family tradition. So he's at Sun
sure,
Valley. He's a senior, 26-7. Um, he's at the top, and he wrestled in the finals against Zach Jappy in the Kesmont final. So and Jappy's right there at number 2. He's 30-7. Another 100-win wrestler, another former state qualifier from Kennett. That's going to be interesting. You have Nick Delarocca, who I want to get your take on from Ridley, and then Andrew Boswick, who I remember from youth wrestling. He's from Pencrest. He's 27-4.
yeah. So again, looking at this bracket, the one thing I did look at Zach Jaffe, again knowing kids from Canada a little bit, Zach is up to 152. He qualified for states at 127. Like Zach has really come up in weight and, has put on a lot of muscle and has worked really, really hard. Like you said, he and Hunter both state qualifiers, looking like, that potentially could be the final. But somebody like Nick Delarocca, Nick is one that actually works out of Kraken, I believe. So, he has some familiarity with some of these guys because, he's in the practice room with them. He knows what they're doing. So, Nick had a really good year at 26-2. He's definitely somebody to keep an eye on, and that's certainly probably why he is at the 3 seed. Another Academy Park, and you're looking at 22-3. He and Muhammad and Les, they're probably battling each other every day, making each other better. That's why those guys are, have over 20 wins and, and are ranked where they are. Like you said, Boswick, we remember that name. He is a junior, 27-4. So, you're looking at a bracket that, like you said, there's two guys that kind of stand out. But after that, you even have a guy, like Luke Senkow, who's 25 wins out of Upper Darby. So, there's some quality wrestling here. And, it's going to be interesting to see come Saturday. Like you said, it might be 1-2, might be, because both of those guys are state qualifiers. But after that, there a lot's up for grabs with those other guys.
Yeah, now 160 is going to be interesting, Dave. We have the hometown favorite, John Smith, two of our super softs here at Oxford, and John Smith just had a tremendous season. State qualified last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt at regionals, and he wasn't able to participate in the tournament. But 34-3. Now, the interesting thing is AJ Corp from Ruston has kind of come down in weight, and he's at 160 now. And they've battled in the past, and it's going to be interesting. Corp also a sophomore, 24-3. And then you have some, veterans in here. Jackson McMonigal, he's a senior from Westchester Henderson, 29-5. And it's Zaire Robinson. Wanted to get your take on him. He's a junior, 21-10.
Yeah. So again, at the beginning, like you said, John, and you and I talked about this, when I think we did the Abington match and you were
Right.
asking about John and Blake and I said, I think they're just on a mission after the injuries last year. And I think that's the case. I think the same can be said down the bottom. Like you said, AJ Corp, those two have battled in the past, but I think both of them are on this mission, after injury, they're both healthy. And I honestly believe that's where we're headed. That looks to be a really good final. But like you said, there's some other guys in here. You mentioned Jackson McMonigal. I'm gonna mention William Caden William Cadden out of Sun Valley. I've seen him wrestle. He's a strong kid. 21-16. 160 is a tough weight class. There's times where he bumps up to 72. So he's moved around a lot. Tough kid. He's going to be a tough out. Then you have Ryan Rossiter out of Innerbar. We have a couple Innerbar, a couple of the upper weights. Innerbar are some decent wrestlers. So, Ryan looks like he's in, as a 3 seed. So, at 28-6, Ryan's going to battle as well. You know, um, Out at Upper Darby, I think you said Upper Darby, Zahir. Um, don't know much about Zahir, in regards to the Central League. But at 21-10, obviously, has some quality wins in there. And, his first match, he's going to face another 20 match winner in, kid from Downingtown East. So, you know, the guy who loses that's going to have to drop down and try to that 20 match winner is going to have to drop down and try to wrestle all the way back to try to get to that fifth, sixth place match. And it's not going to be easy in a bracket like this.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because Don Smith prohibitive favorite, and we'll see if he's able to come out of there. Obviously, he has some big wins in the district duels, wrestled very well against some quality opponents
Yeah.
there, and we'll just see if he's able to keep ascending. So high rated wrestler there for Oxford. 171's the other super soft from Oxford. Blake Hossetter, who overcame an ankle injury last year. He only got to really wrestle in the Solenko tournament, and then his season was over. But
Hmm.
this year, as you said, on a mission, 36-3. I mean, he's just been dominant uh, against that Abington wrestler that we saw last week. He's pretty highly rated, and Hossetter um, just dominated. So at number two, it's Hunter Baldwin from Westchester Henderson. Hossetter beat him fairly easily at the Testmont Championships. Wanted to get your take on Tommy Rush from Springfield. I mean, he's got a great record, 31-1. And then you have Jack Weldon at 28-5. He's in there. And Roman Seaman, I'll throw him in from Ruston. He's in his bracket as well.
Yeah, so like you said, I think Blake is the cream of the crop in this particular bracket. Somebody like a Tommy Rush. Tommy Rush has been wrestling like I remember him in youth wrestling, when my boys were wrestling youth. So, he has experience. 31-1 is nothing to sneeze at. So Tommy Rush is a very good wrestler. And, when you look at him, after getting by that first match, hopefully, then you look at somebody like a Roman Seaman. We have the Roman Seaman actually last year won, you
Yeah.
know, the district title. So, Roman's a very good wrestler. He knows what he's doing. He also suffered some injuries. So, you hope that he's able to, he had some shoulder issues. You hope that he's at 100% because, he is that type of kid that can go into a bracket like this and, like you said, break the bracket up a little bit. So, you have Cade McDowell up top from Downingtown East. He's 27-4. Another one that I know, from previous years, very quality wrestler. And, he's definitely going to make some noise in this bracket as well. But, when you look at it, obviously the one that the proverbial favorite is Blake Hostetter in this bracket.
Yeah, and at 189, this is another one that's a tough bracket. I mean, I was talking to my son earlier, and you know, he wrestled all through chess mods in this district, and he said, "Man, this bracket's tough." You got Brandon Carr from Sun Valley. He's a senior, 39-2. Another kid seems like he's been here forever. Uh, but then you have another super soft, Franco Lattori from Interborough, 32-2. Michael Spielman from Strathaven, 33-2. And then you have Holdren from Avon he's in there, and Paxton Hunt, he's around too. So just talk a little bit about that 189.
Yeah, so when this came out, this was my favorite bracket because, in looking at the other um, districts and whatnot, I honestly think that you have three, possibly four state qualifiers just in this district tournament alone. Brandon Carr is, state qualifier, maybe state placer. I'm not sure if he placed last year or not, but he's right on the cusp of placing at states. You have Franco Lattori, like you said, sophomore, but 32-2. We've seen him wrestle. He's been around and he's solid wrestler. Spielman, Spielman's the one that I think, I mean, people know about him, but he's the one to keep an eye on. I think Michael Spielman out of Strathaven is somebody that, is going to make a lot of noise. And, at 33-2, there's no reason why he can't do that. Paxton Hunt, somebody else, that I've seen and have watched wrestle, with my boys. And like you said, Paxton is a strong kid and, he's going to be fun. But, that potential matchup with Wyatt Holdren out of Avongrove. I saw Wyatt a few times this year and he really impressed me with his skill and his strength. So, we failed to mention down the bottom. You and I had talked about previously before we came on here. Chris Brouette out of Pencrest. 23-8. You have Caleb Akins, who's 26-7. So, you have a lot of guys that have a lot of experience, have a lot of wins. That like I said, this bracket for me, this is my favorite one on Saturday because I really think it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. Like I know Carr, he's wrestled Paxton a bunch this year and has had his number, but come Saturday, it's a whole different ball game. So it'll be interesting to see how this one plays out. But I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, and then as we come down a home stretch here on our District 1 South preview, I'm Lloyd Vance. I'm here with Dave Maiers. 215, Brady Kelly out of Unionville, 33-1. He's a real athletic kid. I mean, he plays football, he wrestles, and he's a pretty good lacrosse player here. So he's at the top, Testmont champion. You have Jagger Vitelli, who made the state tournament. Um, and then you have Luke Palladino. He's in there as well from Ridley. So just talk quickly about 215.
Yeah. So real quick, like you said, you talk about the first two, Jagger last year kind of made a nice little run to get the states, which was nice to see. Luke Palladino, again, another kid, he's been bumping up in weight, year after year. Here he is at 215, has had a really solid season. Somebody else I think to keep an eye on, and it's a name that we know, but I've been following a little bit just because Grady Whartonby is somebody to keep an eye on out in Chichester. Like we obviously know the Whartonby family, the long line of wrestlers there, and Grady has had a really good season, and that's just another name along with Greg Ferrari out of Interborough, who looks to be looks the 3 seed, I believe, but there's a lot of guys here that have had decent seasons that I think are can make some noise on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'll throw Rami Ayub from Coatesville out there. He wrestled very well in last year's tournament, 18 and
Yeah.
12. So it's going to be interesting at 215 because
Yes.
uh, Kelly's a good wrestler, but he's kind of new to wrestling, so there's
Mhm.
not a prohibitive favorite there.
Yeah, I
Uh,
know Jagger and him wrestled earlier in the year, and I think Kelly, beat him by points. So, like, so they have experience this year, but like you said, you know, it's wide open.
yeah, and then at 285, I'm a former heavyweight, so I'm always looking at the big guys, and everybody's it's slow and boring, but I think it's an exciting bracket. I wanted to get your take on some of the seeding. But Fazan Ahmed from Westchester Henderson, he didn't have a great Testament. He's 25-6, so he's number one. Number two, Sensei
McKenna.
Dikene
Yeah.
from Ridley, 26-1. Then you have Nick Farabee from Strathaven. He's in there 29-9. And then, everybody knows one of my personal favorites, Jace McKinney from Oxford, the big cat. He's 25-8. He is the Chessmont champion. He's at number 4. So this is gonna be an interesting bracket here.
Yeah, so like you and I talked about this particular bracket, and then that's when I went and looked at how all of this was done because we had talked about Jace wrestling and he may have beat Ahmad before and just kind of where all these guys fell. So that's really when I kind of got into, how the bracketing was done. And, a lot of it's based on, what the record is now, what they've done previously last year, like prestige points. So, there's a lot that goes into how they seed. And, when you look at their points, these top four guys were awfully close in points in regards to their seeding. So, that's why I think it is going to be such a good bracket because any of them can beat each other. You know what I mean? So, and then you have a couple of other guys like, Tyler Maines out of Avongrove, who, is 26-8, I believe. Yeah, 26-8. He's a decent wrestler, has had a really good year at the heavyweight for Avongrove. Justin Williams, another one who out of Westchester East, he's 20 match winner, 28 matches. He's 28-6. Strong kid. He's a junior, has he started last year 215, worked his way up and has wrestled really well. So, but when you look at it, those top four, like I said, they're so close in their rankings and their scores that I think this could go any way, and any of those top four, I think, since I know a little bit from Ridley, big strong kid, at 26-1, he's going to battle with you. So I think it's really it's wide open between four, and then you add two other guys with over 20 wins. So it's going to be an interesting bracket come Saturday.
Yeah. And there you have it, everybody. This went fast, man.